Peace, 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 peace. Okay, so today's video is pretty much about the reason they aren't respecting your boundaries. So a few years ago, I didn't even know what boundaries were, right? Until I had heard Miss Iyanla Vanzant talk about boundaries. And so boundaries are pretty much your way of showing people how to treat you. Up until that point, no one ever taught me what boundaries were, so you can almost guess how my life was would be, right? And how I would allow people to run amok over my life, right? Because I didn't feel like, I would feel like if I said something at times, then people would probably get upset. Or if I had you know, pretty much told them how I feel, right, then maybe it will go left, right? And so starting and creating boundaries, one of the things that I'm gonna say is you have to be firm on your boundaries, because if there's like any gaps in between the boundaries, then people aren't gonna respect it, because they may feel like you sending them mixed signals. So for instance, if you have like one of your boundaries may be that you don't want people to call you, you know, at a certain time, after a certain time. And if you gonna answer the phone like after they call you, probably say you like, all right, I don't want people to call me after 11 o'clock, right? And if people continuously call you after 11 o'clock and you are answering a phone, then that means that, you know, your boundary is not as stern, right? Because if you answering a phone, it's going to seem like you don't really mean what you're saying, right? And this is a lesson that I'm really getting and understanding. And like I said, like I just was taught about boundaries a few years ago, and implementing them is one thing, but like really sticking to it and meaning what you say is completely something different. Say for instance, also you may have a boundary like you don't want your children's father to come into the apartment, right? For whatever reason, right? You think it's more appropriate that, you know, they father or your baby mama, you know, wait outside until the kids come downstairs, right? I know back in the day, it would be parents that would be like this, like the children, especially you'll see things like this on the movies, where as though the children would be sent outside or whatever. And maybe it's because of the relationships of the parents, or maybe is boundaries, right? So the reason why they may not respect the boundaries is maybe because you're not so stern with the boundaries, right? And that could be for a few reasons. One, you probably afraid how that relationship may go if you were firm with the boundaries. Two, it could be, only thing I come up is one, where so you may be afraid how that relationship may go, right? What you also have to understand is this: if you're not good, no one is going to be good. And I know a lot of times we feel like, well, if I'm kind to this person, or if, you know, I'm gonna still be there for this person, like this person is going to change. Honey, by being there for the person, that person is not going to change. The only thing that can make the person change is life, okay? Things that they tend to go through. And in fact, sometimes people don't change, but it's not your responsibility to try to make someone else change, okay? Another thing is, whenever you set a boundary, don't keep pushing back, right? Don't keep on, you know, saying, well, this is the boundary I say, and don't you come, you know, across this line. And then when a person come across that line, like you don't do anything. Make sure there's a consequence. I remember this person had called me one time, right? And I had said something to the person, and the person had like basically like cursed me out, honey. Basically just cursed me out. And what I did was I hung up, and then I didn't allow the person to have contact with me like in any type of way. Like if it was pertaining to something that was you know, maybe important because we had children together, like if it was pertaining to them, that was something totally different. But if it's pertaining to any like small talk or whatever it was, I would not allow them to have access to me, because we show people exactly how we want to be treated. So say for instance, right, you created a boundary, and say one of the things you said was, I don't want you just showing up at my house, right? And say for instance, the person feel entitled, right? Because sometimes what it is, people may feel too comfortable with us, right? Like they may feel like, you know, well, you never said nothing in the past or whatever it is, so why are you saying this now, right? And they may feel like they can do whatever it is that they want to do. And the moment you start saying, well, that's how it used to be, but today is a completely different day, and they start showing up at your house unannounced, right? Now, the first time, people are going to break the boundaries because that's just human nature, right? But that does not mean you have to tolerate human nature or whatever it is like that, because self-esteem, is no way your self-esteem could be high if you do not have boundaries. So say for instance, the person shows up at your house and you like, I told you not to come here, whatever, and they not listening to that, because it's more so like you not being firm. You just like, I told you not to come here or whatever it is like that. One of the things that you can do is not open your door, right? Not open your door for whatever reason. Now, depending on how it is, because say maybe you have children with this person or whatever it is like that, you know, and a person just continuously show up, and maybe is the other parent's turn to take the child, right? And a person, you know, the other parent don't call, they just show up. They basically do what they want to do. What I'm understanding is that it has to be a point where as though you have this attitude probably sometimes like, if they come, they come. If they don't, right? Because that's probably the only type of way they are going to respect. That's probably the only type of way they are going to respect your boundaries, right? So I hope this helps someone out there that's going through it. Honey, let me tell you something. It's like you go through it until you grow through it. I know at times you may feel like you don't want to set the boundaries in motion, but in order for you to have like a healthy relationship with people, and even say that the person probably, you know, like, all right, well, since you got these boundaries, whatever, nobody is going to abide by them, or nobody is listening to that shit. That's not true. That person just don't want to listen to it because probably they are narcissists, right? Maybe they don't want to listen to it because they used to doing whatever the hell they want. And if you continue to allow people to do whatever the hell it is that they want, they're going to keep on doing it. And I know it may seem scary, but let me tell you something. With every person, whenever you start standing up for yourself and sticking up for yourself, right? Because we attract exactly who we are, right? And people are reflectors of us. And only thing they showing back to us is how we mess with ourselves. And so this was another lesson that I really, really needed to get probably about eight years ago, right? The lesson was, I cannot feel bad for taking matters like, you know, doing things like, for instance, probably kicking somebody out, right? And then I've been complaining about the person like for the longest, and, you know, calling people like, oh, and that's another thing I would do. I would call people and be like, oh, well, this person, could you, you know, tell this person to leave or whatever it was. And a part of me would feel bad, like, oh, well, if I called, say, for instance, the popo, if I called the popo to have this person escorted out of my house, then it would make me seem like I'm the bad person, right? And at the same time, you know, having somebody in your house that you don't want in your house, for whatever reason, and it doesn't have to be, you just don't want them there, right? And I remember the universe would show me time and time and time again how I was accepting what people was giving to me. And not speaking from like a victim standpoint, but speaking from a person that had clearly no goddamn boundaries, okay? A person that will allow people to run over her because she felt part of it was her, part of it was what she deserved. Because subconsciously, the reason why we tend to put up with certain things that we put up with is because subconsciously how we really view ourselves. What's our self-image? So I hope you guys got something from this. Another thing is, if somebody is calling your phone and, you know, harassing you, the key idea is not to answer the phone, right? Because if you answering the phone, it's like you adding fire to the fuel. So don't answer the phone. And like I said, if they call you after whatever time, right, after 11 o'clock, the reason they do it is because you have allowed it and they have became comfortable with doing so. And you never set up any type of restrictions, like you can't do this, you can't do that, or whatever it is. So people just feel like, oh, well, I could run amok over her life. I could do whatever it is I want to do to them because they're not showing me exactly how they really feel they want to be treated, right? So with that being said, I catch you guys on the next video. Make sure you're rocking out, believing in yourself, and fucking with you. Peace.